Hello, purpose-driven career leaders. My name is Kori Burkholder, founder of Purpose-Driven Career Accelerator program. And today I am here with Brittany, who has recently completed the program. And we wanted to connect today because I think her story is really going to inspire many of you, especially those who are feeling lost and stuck in their career. And you might want change, but you have no idea what that change is. So we're going to talk with Brittany, and she's going to share what her experience was like moving through the program. So without further ado, let me introduce Brittany. So Brittany, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your professional background and where you're from?
Perfect. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I am now a Westchester County girl. I've been in human resources for the last 5 years, and pretty much the most of those 5 years, I've been specializing in recruitment and retention.
Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, so when you reached out for support, many people who are reaching out, they feel lost, like I said, in their careers. But what were you struggling with? What was that big struggle or obstacle that you were struggling with when you decided to reach out for support?
Ooh, I definitely struggled with a lack of direction and clarity as far as like who I wanted to be in and out of, the workplace. I think I was definitely struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, we just kind of reviewed some of your goals when coming into the program. And I just want to read those out because then we'll kind of get a sense of your journey here. So when Brittany reached out, asked her what her goals were, and one was to find a sense of direction when it comes to her career, and finding a workplace and career that lights her up and makes her feel like she has purpose. And she wanted to have a life outside of work, make great money at something that she's naturally good at. So yeah, so why don't we just dive into some of that? So yeah, so just kind of tell us about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, when I initially started with you, I was sort of very confused. I was at a very interesting point in my life. I was only married for 1 month. I was not in Brooklyn anymore. So I was sort of completely out of my element. And I felt like I was in a transition, but I was lost. I was sort of floating through, and I was researching a sort of way. I was looking for help anywhere. And I knew that I was having a tough time in my career, specifically with my employer. And I knew I wasn't happy there, but I just did not know what to do. I was very confused as to, do I leave? Do I change careers? There were so many things that sort of popped up. So it essentially led me to you. And the journey sort of started from there.
Right. Right. So you knew that you were unhappy at work, but not necessarily not having an idea of why.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let's kind of dive into what we explored and maybe some of the aha moments that you had. So, we went through values, we went through passions and interests, work motivators, ideal working day. So do you remember like an exercise that, kind of where you had that aha moment where it's like, oh, yeah, now I can clearly see why I might be unhappy here.
I think it was mainly my values. I guess I never considered my values before, and especially when it came to my life or my workplace. So a lot of values that came up, some of them were surprising. Some of them I knew that they meant a lot to me, but I wouldn't necessarily call them values, my core values. And I know that's something that I live by now. And it sort of allows me to look for that in the workplace, with friendships and in my life. And it's sort of leading me to where I'm supposed to be. So I would say that was probably the most important exercise. It sort of laid the foundation for me because I really didn't have that. It was, like I said, I felt like I was kind of floating. I was very unstable. So it laid the foundation for me. I would say that was probably the most important exercise.
Yeah. And I think it helped you have some conversations at work, right? So
Yeah.
you were really struggling with a very tough manager. I think a lot of people could relate to having an experience working with a micromanager.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you decided to do to kind of tackle that to make it a better situation for you?
Well, number one, I think just getting the sort of advice that I received from you was really being positive and sort of changing my thinking, but also being open and brave enough to have those sort of conversations with him that I felt like I wasn't ready or equipped to do that. And you sort of helped me with that and provided me the tools where I had those conversations multiple times with him. They didn't go in my favor, but I think when I thought about them, I said, okay, this is not the place for me. This is not the employer for me based on my values and my conversation. And it just sort of pushed me along the way of saying, okay, this is not it. Where I'm at right now is not where I'm meant to be. And it allowed me to just move on from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember those struggles. It was like in a few sessions, it's like, okay, try it this way. He's, just figuring out what his, management style was and where you thrive under, right? So like when we dove into the work motivators, like what really drives and motivates you. And when you understand that, you're able to have these more difficult conversations, but you want to let your manager know, hey, I really am motivated by positive feedback and trust, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing that was really lacking in your working relationship.
Yes, that trust was a large one. It just made me feel like I wasn't empowered enough to do my job. It made me feel very small. Even though I had the experience, I felt so inexperienced.
Mm.
So it just led me to feel like I had lower self-esteem at my job. And that led me to feel very unhappy.
Right. So then you had that like moment of clarity. I feel like it was just like, it's not what I do, because you really realized when we did the skills, right? The skills that you have and the skills you want to be leading with, and those skills you were not able to use, right?
Yes.
So can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So if anybody knows me, I love to chit chat. And it is probably one of my favorite skills, and it's most utilized at my job when I'm interviewing. I really harness relationships, and I thrive off of relationships. And I wasn't getting that with my previous employer. I was left to interview once in a blue. It didn't really fill me up. And I found that out later on when I said, wow, all of these skills that I really love, they are typically, a part of my job. I'm just not doing them. So it's not necessarily the job. It was the fact that I wasn't utilizing the skills that I'm naturally good at and I enjoy. So there was another aha moment of like, okay, it's the employer, it's the skills, there's a combination, and it allowed me to look a little bit more deeper into what was really going on there.
Right. Yeah, it was like that. And then realizing the content of your work or the industry, right? That was
Yes.
not aligned with your bigger mission or how you wanted to make an impact in the world.
Yes. So that was another thing that I discovered as far as my values and my work motivators, that I wanted to have a mission at work. And I worked it just a bit harder when I had one. And that's something that moved me a lot more. I was in an industry where I was working with attorneys, and despite the great work that they do, it wasn't something that was a value for me. So I was left, feeling very unfulfilled, as opposed to, my workplace right now. We're one of the largest suppliers for first responders. So the work that I do is I'm, indirectly helping the people that help us. So that's something that moves me a lot more.
Yeah, and I can't wait to dive into that. But I think there was one other big aha moment. It was towards the end. I feel like in one of our private sessions was going back to the faith, right?
Yes.
Value. Did that, so once you kind of realized that it was the workplace, and kind of when you were in that job search, did that value help you, with what you were looking for? Did it, when you were actually searching for jobs on Indeed and things like that, was that anywhere in the background?
Yes, it was a very strange way that it came about, because it came up in my values and I was sort of shocked by it. Like, oh wow, I guess I didn't think that was like a value, but sure. And while I was searching for positions and companies, I did think that maybe I would be better placed at a place that was a more faith-based organization, and maybe that would give me the fulfilling feeling that I want. And that wasn't necessarily the case, but oddly enough, I found faith in my work that I do now. I've been a lot more open about going to church and my faith, and everybody at my job has been really accepting and really awesome and recommending books to me, churches to me, just being so open about it. And I think I've never had that at work before. And I was stuck in this idea that I would only get that sort of feeling at a faith-based organization, but that just hasn't been the case.
Right. And we talked about this last week. It was, with going through this whole process, you're really starting to visualize kind of that ideal work environment. And you wanted to bring this piece in. We thought it would be like separate or that you'd have to go there, but the way that it is unraveling through work is part of that environment now, right? So it's like accepted. You can really go to work being your whole self, which must feel
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, and I enjoy that a lot because I thought that was something, especially in being in HR, that you sort of have to put that on the back burner. And that's one of those sort of taboo topics that you don't talk about. But I found that just not to be the case. I've been so open with so many of my coworkers, and I'm like, oh, I go to church too. Oh, I read the Bible on lunch too. Oh, there's a great book. Oh, and I'm just like, wow, overwhelmed by this amount of love and openness and just information that I'm receiving right at work. And so in a funny way, I just am living up to my value, but it's just not in the way that I thought I would.
Which I love. It's not being so tied to an outcome. It's being open and seeing how it kind of reveals itself, which is cool. The other thing that we talked about last week was, when we started, you have like all the different aspects of your life. Yes, career is obviously the driving factor, what we're working on. But me as a coach, I want to see people as their whole self. And so you kind of rate yourself with, religion or with health and wellness, meditation, hobbies, passions, interests. So it was interesting because we did the before and after. So can you share a little bit how some of those other elements are now being met in your life?
Sure. So a big thing is that I felt I focused on work so much and I didn't have a life outside of work, especially moving away from my home, not being close to everything that I know. I sort of felt like I was a blank slate. There was nothing going on in my life except work. And I was crazy about being there. So, when we actually sort of took that audit of my outside life, it was very low. I wasn't very happy, but now it's changed a lot just because my life is a lot more open, spending a lot of time with my husband. I go out a lot. I'm discovering Westchester a lot more. I began to start volunteering. That's really great. I've met a lot of interesting and fun people, cool people there. And I've learned a lot of skills at work so far too, or at volunteering. And I also joined a meetup where I meet some wonderful ladies, and that's really great. So every other week there's a new activity, there's a new place to discover, and life has just become a lot more full. And that's something I wasn't expecting to sort of happen through the program.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, kind of share what's next for you. Like, what are you working towards right now?
Sure. Sure. So I actually am in a funny stage, but I am enjoying it. So I, recently got a new job, as you know, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And I told myself that I'm going to relish in it because I deserve it. I've had a lot of instability as far as like different jobs. I'm not feeling like I've actually lived by my values, and a lot of highs and lows. And I'm at a point where I feel very stable, very content, very happy. And I told myself I'm going to enjoy it as much as possible. A big thing that I do want to work on next is really exploring some sort of passion project that I want to do on the side. And as we talked about, I think faith may be a big part of that, a larger part of that than what I thought, along with some other interests of fashion and HR. So that's something that's in the mix too.
Have you just because it was a week ago, but have you thought about it at all? Has it crystallized any further?
A little bit. I think, I am interested a little bit in social media, but more on the positive. And, I think I have a love-hate relationship with social media. There's so much good on there and also so much not so good. And I think I want to I think I want to just dedicate a little bit more of social media, maybe more so to faith and people that are kind of going through the similar circumstances that I am.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's been really inspiring watching your journey from where you were about 6, 7 months ago to now. And so like we said, like a lot of people are feeling unhappy in their career, and some are afraid to reach out for help. So, what would you say to somebody who is considering joining the program?
Just do it, like Nike. Just do it. I think that you may not find exactly what you want in the way that you think you want it. Like me, I was very specific about, I don't want to be 15, I don't want to be more than 15 minutes away from home. I want to be hybrid. I want this, I want that. And in a sort of way, I didn't get any of that, but I got all of my values. So I think,
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's so
The other
funny.
thing that was the big aha moment for you too is like you want to work in person. So now you're going to the office 5 days a week, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah. And that was a big change because I felt as though I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to stay hybrid. It's best of both worlds. But it has allowed me to have separation from work and home. It's allowed me to reach out to other people and speak to other people. And I've met so many people that have sort of helped me in faith just by leaving home. So it's just funny how things have worked out in that sort of way. But that's something that I said, I don't see myself going back to the office. And here I am Monday through Friday, and I'm very happy about it. So I would say just recommend to people, just do it. You never know what's going to happen. You may not find your dream career, but I think you're going to be a few steps closer to just being happier. And I think when you're in a better place and you're happier, you'll find the dream career. It'll come in.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for trusting me as your coach. It
You're
has really
welcome.
been, like I said, an honor to guide you through this and just witnessing your journey and where you are right now. So anybody out there who's listening to this, our video, if you'd like to explore, how you land your dream job, how you can become happier in your life, reach out to me. I offer a 15-minute free brainstorming session where I'm going to ask you a few questions to work out if or how I can help you. If I can't, I'll let you know and I'll try to point you in the right direction. But if I can help, we'll take the next steps. So I'm going to post that link below. And my name is Kori Burkholder, telling you to take action, feel the fear, and do it anyways.